Mim and Lauren had to travel 300 to 500 kilometers each day, so having to refuel their bikes in remote parts of China became their biggest concern. The good thing is that they can still find fuel every 150 kilometers. However, the regulations in fuel stations are a bit out of anyone's expectations.
Getting fuel is you stop when you can. Whenever you find a fuel station, you stop and get the fuel, because you just don't know when the next fuel stop is. It could be 20 kilometres away, it could be 150 kilometres away, it could be 200 kilometres away. You have no idea. And so what you do is you stop whenever you can and top up, fuel up. What's fascinating about the fuel stops is that we're not allowed to approach the pumps themselves. There's a policy within China that motorcycles are not allowed to approach the fuel pumps. And so you're allocated a designated area to park your bike. For me, coming from the West, it was completely bizarre. Why? And at the same time, it's how you do it, which was quite amazing, because here you are, allocated a certain area to fuel your bike, but how do you fill it? China has these wonderful service stations, fully modified into this technological world, and in order to fill out our motorcycles we have to use a bucket. So they give you a kettle, an old kettle, and you've got to fill up the kettle and walk over to your bike and fill it up. And before you do that, how much fuel do you actually take? You've got to learn to judge the amount of fuel you require in your tank. So the only way you can do it is open up your tank or read your fuel gauge to see whether you have half a tank, a quarter tank, or you're out of fuel. And then you've got to judge the exact amount to top up, because if you over purchase, you can't pour it back into the pump. You actually have to use it all up. And that was very bizarre to us. Well, to me in particular.
Explain the reason why they use this policy is some of the bad quality motorbike, it's very easy to catch fire in summer, so they keep us as far away as possible.
We also encounter disadvantages where we have excess luggage and baggage on the back of our bike. That restricts your movements, and so stopping in some of these fuel stops, their concrete isn't flat as you would expect. It's elevated and it's broken and it's not 100%. And then all of a sudden, resting your bike in the right location, you could find your bike could topple over. And of course with wind, makes it worse. With rain, all of those you've got to take into consideration. And again, it wasn't all that easy.
Yes, and also I guess part of the reason is they seldom see travelers travel with motorbikes. Normally it's the locals, they're really used to it. They don't find it something couldn't believe. But for us as an outsider, like when we talk to them, they will say, yeah, this is just normal.
Yeah, you know, they couldn't understand. And if you, realistically, when you take a look at our bikes, they're completely different to everybody else's. So they don't look like the regular or normal bike. In particular, when you see myself as a foreigner or Lauren, she herself on a motorcycle doesn't dress like a normal local. So you could obviously tell we're both travellers with the gear we have, the type of bikes we have. And sometimes it's like, fuck, are you blind? Can't you see? And it gets that way. It's really frustrating. But then you learn to curb your frustrations, and you sit there and you do what the locals do, and you say, yes, we understand, but just put the fuel in. You know, we can't walk over here. And after a few attempts, you either get it or you don't. And so you take the course of action.
Yeah, most of the time I don't get it.
Yeah.
After traveling 2,000 kilometers in 3 weeks and having to deal with all kinds of unexpected incidents in September, they have reached the border of Xinjiang. But they were completely stunned by what was in front of them. So Mem decided to stop and film this once-in-a-lifetime scene. Coming up on Where Are We Now?
By far, this has to be the most amazing traffic jam I have ever encountered in my life. It has run for over 50 kilometres and I have no idea what's ahead of me. All I know, there's more traffic jam. And it's amazing, you're in the middle of the desert and this is what you see. Just continuously. Unbelievable. Hard to imagine until you've seen it or experienced of being in it. And here we are. Lucky I've got water. Where are we? Good question.
That was at the border of Gansu province and Xinjiang province. I believe it's over 100 kilometers because we had our meter. My bike doesn't tell me how much fuel I have left. It only tells me how far I go. So I think it's at least 100 kilometers long traffic jam. And it's just right in the middle of the desert. There's nothing. Very narrow road, and there's road construction in both ends. And because it's on the border, so many trucks, they have to go through certain procedure to cross province. So this itself already slowed down the procedure. And then with the road construction and also some small vehicle try to overtake or try to cut through the traffic and stuck with another truck, facing at a different direction. So all this bad driving manner and also the road condition, everything just create this endless traffic jam. Is amazing, and we were lucky. We're on the bike, so we were able to go through. But even though go through those trucks, sometimes they will be open up the gate all of a sudden to the new street. There's a very heavy high about.
The number of trucks is more like being at a truck station in the shipping yards, where you've got anything and everything you could possibly think of, from wind propellers to chickens and ducks and cows to livestock, right to cars and trucks, being manoeuvred from one side of the country to the other.
And as we're approaching to the end of the traffic jam, one tourist car, they stopped me and they asked, how far is the traffic jam? I say it's over 100K. And other people come and they start to talk about the traffic jam. And I overheard from one driver say that he already stuck there for 3 days. But all along when we see it, it seems that those drivers are very familiar with situations like this. They're quite prepared. They naturally turn their vehicle into their bedroom. You will see drivers using the water from their vehicle and have a shower, brushing their teeth, using the side of the road as their toilet.
That was probably very disgusting to us because when we first saw it, it's like, oh, what the fuck's this? And you think to yourself, what the hell's going on here? Because these people are just using the side of the road as their toilet, as their bathroom. And then this was prior to stopping to talk to people. So by the time we did stop and talk to people, we soon realised that they'd been on the road for 3 days, and to walk away from your vehicle, you're going into the harsh desert sun. And so do you go into the desert sun to use it as a toilet, or do you go to the side of the car? And of course it's safer to use the side of the car and the road, unfortunately, but for us it seemed very disgusting. And all of a sudden you're seeing people also sharing newspapers. So their vehicles become their home. They sleep, drink, use it as their toilet, their bed, the whole lot. It's just really bizarre.
And also it's all male there. In fact, there's very, very small amount of females. So I guess they don't expect to see opposite gender appearing on the road. So I remember there was once this guy was, using the roadside as a toilet, and then he looked around and saw me coming. So he sort of like panic, trying to run, and I was like,
There are only miles of desert along the traffic jam. The drivers, as well as Mem and Lauren, couldn't stop anywhere to freshen themselves up. How long would this last? After 8 hours of riding without having any proper meal, they finally approached the border of Xinjiang, where is also the end of the traffic jam. They have finally found a place to stop. It is also, they call it, the life-saving station. But there is nothing like what they could expect coming up on Where Are We Now?
If they haven't brought their own water or their own food or anything, there is nothing out there for them to fuel up or to get food or water, unless they've approached one of the other truck drivers or so on and ask them, but that's highly unlikely because everybody's in the same situation. So you really need to be prepared. Now, fortunately for us, we're on motorcycles, so we actually beat the 3-day waiting period and did it all within 8 hours. And so if we hadn't, we ourselves were prepared for food and overnight, but even then, you just didn't expect to see this. It was way out of our expectation. Well, when you're stuck in this, you're probably wondering, where do you stop to have lunch? In a place like this, full of dust, dirt, truck after truck after truck, traffic jams you could just possibly not imagine until you've seen it for yourself. This is where you can, if you wish, and if you're hungry, stop for lunch. This is it. This is the place. As soon as that's ended and you've gone through the toll booths, it's almost like a mini town, and there's all these number of truck stops. And if you're daring and if you're desperate, you'll do what we did and stop and get something to eat. And there is people lined up in front of these little takeaways and restaurants, brushing their teeth, washing themselves down after that long journey that they've had and they've experienced. It just seemed disgusting. It's like, hello, we're here, go somewhere else and do it. But of course, once again, there's piles and piles of trucks lined up and parked there to do the same thing, so there's nowhere for them to go. Let's go take a look inside. This fancy looking restaurant. Great photos, some meals.
When you're on the road, you really don't have too much of a requirement. It really pushes you down to your basic living requirement. You need food. If there's food, you take it. If you need water, there's water, you drink it. You don't question too much. And I can imagine, like, with the same condition, if you give us now, there's no way we're gonna walk near it. But there is a life-saving station, you know, somewhere that you can grab food and sit down and have water to drink. That is almost like a miracle.
Absolutely, it's exactly what Lauren said. If you saw these restaurants here in Beijing, you would call the health inspectors. You know, you would never allow anybody to walk in there and say, no way, this is just not right. But the circumstances and where you are, you will take it. You don't have a choice, you eat it. And we were hungry, you know, we'd just gone through 8 hours on the road, heavy traffic, congestion. We needed some fresh food. So, and to get off the bikes and to just relax a little bit, it was great. It's good. And you know what? Full credit to all those drivers and those people, because their patience, no one's jumped out to kill someone. Because I know in Beijing I've seen people jump out and whack someone for no reason whatsoever in a traffic jam. But out there, they're stuck for 3 days. Their patience, their tolerance is fully tested, and I tell you, full credit to them. The human being is pushed, and that's pushing people to a very high level of tolerance, because you're stuck, like I said, without a kitchen, without a toilet, without entertainment, because they have to switch their motors off. They've got to save the energy in their battery and their fuel, and so that's really testing people, and it doesn't matter which part of the world you come from, that is a test. When they're on the highway and when they're moving, that's probably why they drive that crazy, because they're letting out of their frustrations. It's like, oh, now I can drive. Let's go.
In the next episode, as Mem and Lauren had finally entered the border of Xinjiang, they are getting closer and closer to their first destination of the trip, Shanshan Desert.
Man, it's a hot one, like